Welcome to Grit, the Real Estate Growth Mindset podcast, hosted by Brian Charlesworth, founder of Sisu. Sisu provides growth automation software for real estate. You'll hear stories from real estate thought and technology leaders, team owners, and brokers on how they grew their business in a rapidly changing industry. You'll learn how to transform your brokerage and teams into a high-performing and analytics-driven business so you have a new, durable, competitive advantage against disruption in your market. So let's get right into it.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Grit Podcast. I'm Brian Charlesworth, the founder of Sisu and the host of the show. And for those of you who don't know what Sisu is where real estate transacts online. And we're focused on streamlining the real estate home buying and selling process, primarily focused on working with real estate businesses and then allowing everyone involved in the transaction to collaborate. So the mortgage and title and those types of companies. So anyway, today we have a special guest with us here, Kevin Kauffman out of Scottsdale, Arizona. And I love this. I read his LinkedIn today and it said, Kevin is a podcast host and an entertainer. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
You're the guy. You're the one that read my bio on LinkedIn. I love it.
Can you believe that? You know, his podcast is the Kevin and Fred Show, and anyone in real estate probably is familiar with that. It's part of the industry syndicate, and we'll talk a little bit more about that probably today. But I think real estate falls in there somewhere as well.
Yeah.
He came into the real estate industry in 2007. He's built a team called 4610 that is in 5 states and just one of the top Real Trends teams. He also used to own a KW Market Center, and he sold that and went to EXP. So I want to hear a little bit more about that. But he's actually in 5 states, and that's amazing and not an easy task to do. I've seen a lot of people try to build these remote businesses or market centers or whatever you want to call it, and it can be a challenge. So in addition to that, Kevin has a Next Level Agents Facebook group that has over 26,000 members. So Kevin, you've got a lot going on. How do you manage all this?
Oh, I don't. It's a mess. It's always a mess, Brian. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah. What did I miss there? I mean,
oh gosh, no, I don't know. Please don't, because I get sick every time I hear someone read a bio or just even highlights from it. I sell real estate, man. We first and foremost, we sell real estate. I'm sitting in Tempe, Arizona today. It's where my office is. I live in Scottsdale. But it's Phoenix. It's the Phoenix metro area. It's such a big spread out area. My business partner and I have been working together since February of 2008. We decided to kind of team up. I think I'd been in the business for about 6 or 7 months at that point. And we started working together, doing short sales. And one thing led to another. Next thing I know, we had a business, and it was growing and kind of became this big giant thing. And all these other little fun things that you just talked about, kind of my tongue in cheek there with on my LinkedIn profile about being a podcast host and entertainer. All those things sort of kind of went from there. So no doubt we sell real estate first and foremost, but we also have a good time giving back and not just teaching, but also learning from other people in the industry.
I love that you put that in your bio. If you ever want some entertainment, go read all the bios on our website, because Frank is just like you and he wants to put random things in there. So we like to see if anybody ever reads it. So entertainer, that was just because you're famous for Fred and Kevin's show, or is that for the Facebook group, or where'd that come from?
I think, well, so the part of it is I had somebody ask us, a guy who works for Open Door, which is one of the big iBuyer companies. Asked me one day, he goes, "What exactly do you do?" It's like, well, it's kind of like, so it kind of became a joke, right? But the reality is Fred and I started teaching classes on short sales back in 2008 when nobody else was, nobody knew what was going on with short sales. And so we started getting out in front of people and sharing what we did know and what we were having success with and even what we were failing at. And that later evolved into started a video blog, and I'll never forget, it was November of 2009. Because Gary Vaynerchuk's book Crush It had just come out, and we read it, and we started a video blog, went and bought a Kodak ZI-8 camera that's sitting in the desk right over my shoulder that night, and started filming videos. We had a blog called Short Sale Power Hour, and we're fairly tongue in cheek. You can't really take us too seriously. We're serious about the way we go about our business, and yet we also wear shorts and flip flops, and I wear a black t-shirt. You mentioned Frank. Him and I showed up to a Zoom the other day, like literally dressed as the other person, just without even knowing it. Like exact
Kind
same
of like
thing.
you and I are today.
Yeah, black hat, black glasses, black t-shirt, hoodie, you name it, like the whole nine. And so we're just kind of, who we are, and have embraced that, over the years. And it's kind of just, it's who we are. We're not very good go with the grain people. We don't play politics very well. We just don't do things like that very well. And we've just embraced that. And so I think that's kind of where that came from. I don't know why I hate talking about myself. I hate talking bio, and someone else filling that out one day. I just was like, I don't know. I guess I try to entertain people from time to time.
Love it. So it seems to me you're like way ahead of the curve. Like you had Gary V get you start. You went out and bought that camera in 2008. Is that right?
It was November of 2009. Yeah.
So who else was doing video in 2009? Not very many people.
No, probably not that many, especially not compared to now. I mean, truthfully, even now, not that many people are doing it. Sometimes it feels like everyone's doing it because of the industry and the people that probably you and I are both around. You have to. But the truth is, even in the industry, there's not really that many people utilizing video. And for sure, in 2009, even less.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I think it's really cool you guys got started on that so early. So when did you guys actually start your podcast?
About just over 2 years ago. It was, I guess, a little more than 2 years ago. It was November of 2018. Yeah, that would have been 2018. Yeah, so
Okay.
just a little more than 2 years ago, decided to start a podcast. I'd always wanted to do a podcast, more of like a scratch my own itch. I really like to interview people. I like talking to smart people, learning how they're successful, learning what makes them tick. One of the things I love about this industry is how wildly different successful models are. Like there's not one way to do things.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, especially if we join like a big company, like I was at Keller Williams for the first 11 years of my career, and it was amazing. Like 9 of those years were really amazing. And, but there was like the model. People said it's part of the language. Like you got to be on the model, like as if there's only one way of doing it. And that always rubbed me the wrong way because there's not one way to do things, especially in this industry. And so I've always been fascinated by the different ways people succeed. Mm-hmm. And so I really just, once I found out that you could record a podcast like this over Zoom and scrape the audio from it, I was like,
yeah.
Somebody on my staff told me that. I said, really? You can just scrape the audio right off that video? Because again, I've been doing video since 2009. So I knew how to do that, but I could not conceptually wrap my head around how to podcast. And so I thought I had to go to this big studio and pay an engineer and all this stuff. I don't know. And so once I realized that, I was like, okay, I just started a podcast that day. I was like,
so who told you that? Like, how did you discover that you could scrape that and take all that content and do stuff with it?
Well, so I've always used video. I've always used content and repurposed it. I'll take one piece of content and use it on a Facebook page, upload it to YouTube, use it as a clip of it on Instagram stories, things like that. So we've always created content for realtors and for consumers. I say always, since November of 2009, we've created content one way or the other. And I started repurposing it. There's a marketing genius, by the name of Dean Jackson. He calls it the MOO method, which is multiplied oral output. So if you're going to record one piece of content, like what else can you do with that one single piece? And I'm not kidding, Brian. It was literally a conversation I just had with a member on my staff who helped on the operations side just with random things. And she said, if you just give me that video that you did, I could just take the audio off of that and put it on a podcast for you.
So, really? So you're about a year ahead of where I am, and you have a different type of business than I do. But I'd love to hear what benefits for our listeners. What benefits have you received from podcasting?
Oh my gosh, it's hard to even. I almost can't even start to quantify that. So I would go back to let's go back to November of 2009 because even though that was a video, that was effectively a podcast in a way. We were putting out content regularly. Mm-hmm. So with my realtor hat on for a moment, like the simplest one that we can all relate to, tons of referrals. I can't count the agent referrals and relationships that I've created around the country since we've started putting out content. and that was free and helpful, like hopefully helpful to some people. And so I think that's one of the more obvious ways where it's like easy to count and track is a ton of referrals. But I learned so much, and I just get to know people. I'm a bit of a connector. Probably my one real skill in life is connecting people, understanding who's great at what, who does this and who does that, and how who's really the best at it, and connecting people with each other. I excel at that, I believe. And I think podcasting is one way that I have now, because I get to normally roles are reversed. And I know luckily you and I get to reverse these roles here real soon, get to find out what makes people tick, what makes them really smart. What do they know something about that maybe people don't even realize that they know about, like that. What is this person's genius, if you will? And I oftentimes, because I have a lot of conversations like that, just know where to connect the dots for other people.
Yeah, that is such a great thing about this. Like just hearing from you about how you leverage your podcasting and what you're doing differently and how you started with video. It's like you're just way ahead of the times. So I want to ask you some questions about a couple of the current things going on in the real estate world.
Yeah, let's do it.
First one is Clubhouse. Are you on Clubhouse? Tell me what's going on with that.
I'm on it. I have an account. I've participated a couple of times. I think what's going on is that number one, it's new, so people want to check it out, and nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd. And so there's a little bit of that going on for it. I think the ease of use to be able to have access to other people's information is appealing to people. It's why podcasts have taken off the way that they have. It's why video has. It's just that, and this is just a new form of it. It's funny, I found myself questioning it a couple of weeks ago, because I see a lot of the scheduled, whatever you call those, talks, or I'm not even sure the correct name for them. Conversations, yeah. And I'm like, they're podcasting. But I was like, and the first thing I thought was like, man, I hope they're actually recording it so they can let this live somewhere else too. So there's like this thing of, it's the exclusivity thing of you have to be there to hear it. And then I'm thinking for like the actual creators, I'm going, I sure hope that they're recording this too, for, again, going back to the Dean Jackson method of multiplied oral output. If you're going to take the time to use the content or create the content, use it in multiple places. So I think that's what it is. I think for some people, this is their moment, like I had with podcasting, of like, I could just use Zoom and record a video and scrape the audio. I think they're going, it's really easy to have this conversation where I don't have to use Zoom, or I don't have to use a conference line. And it doesn't matter. You can come and go as you please. And it's just kind of a new thing. And I think it just allows people to have access to people and information they wouldn't otherwise have in a form that they wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah. You and I think so much alike. It's funny. I actually thought about doing our interview today on Clubhouse.
Oh, really?
It would have been my first. It would have been my first interview there, but why not? Right?
Yeah, that's the thing. And
then open it up to the last 15 minutes of Q&A for everybody.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I kind of just go in and browse probably once a day or every other day, and I'll go listen into a room if there's someone speaking or there's a topic that's interesting to me. I'll go in there and listen for a little while. I haven't spent a ton of time there, but I think it's an interesting thing, and my guess is it's here to stay.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's super powerful. I jumped into a room one night. I got invited on stage, just did a quick intro. They were talking about operations and streamlining your operations of a real estate company. And I didn't try to sell anything. They asked a few questions about Sisu, told me I couldn't sell. But then a bunch of our customers are on there talking about how they use Sisu. And all of a sudden, we had like 24 leads come in that night. This is like at 9:00 at night. So anyway,
that's the power of something that's new, though, of instead of sort of poo-pooing it, like a year ago, if we were doing this, you'd be asking me what's going on with TikTok instead of what's going on with Clubhouse, right? And what I saw most people do goes, oh yeah, that's that app for kids and teenagers to sing and dance and all that fun stuff. And instead of going, what's the early mover advantage? Because there's a distinct early mover advantage, and it's really easy. You just gave a great example of it with what you experienced on Clubhouse recently, or go back to Gary Vee. I've referenced him a few times, like where he's like, okay, maybe this platform, whatever it is, goes away one day. Maybe this is short lived. But if you can
and he's been on platforms that have gone away, right?
he has, right. But if you can go learn to create content in that fashion, where can you go use that skill somewhere else? And for any business owner, being able to create your own media and content can be a very powerful tool. And so there's no harm in it unless you find out it's using you versus you using it. But outside of that, I mean, there's, so many people turn their nose up at, they did it at Facebook, they did it at Twitter, they did it at Instagram, and so on and so forth. And now it's Clubhouse, but last year was TikTok. And there's probably lessons in all of those to find that we can use.
I mean, for me, it's what value, and I'm a little bit different than you because my customers are different than you in a way, to an extent. I guess they're the same in some aspects.
Yeah, they're not all that different.
Yeah. But I'm sure you found this, and I've found this, that just bringing value to the industry. There's value in bringing value to the industry.
Yep.
So
that was it. That's a great way to put it. And I feel like every relationship I have, so many of the amazing things that have happened to me in this industry happened because of somebody I met at a time I was doing that. Whether it was, most of it really goes back to my early short sale days when we were just freely giving away how to close short sales at a high level with without we didn't even charge people for it until we started traveling to do it. And we still didn't sell it for nearly enough money, but we just gave it away, and it opened up so many doors and put us in so many relationships that, I can think back to so many things that have come from that. And this is just the new iteration of that.
Yeah. So you brought up TikTok. Are you on TikTok?
No, I deleted it from my phone because I realized I wasn't going to actually start. I wasn't going to spend the time to create like that anymore. And so I took it off so that way it wasn't a distraction. I'm the guy that loves social media, and last September deleted Facebook and Twitter from my phone. I have Instagram left basically for the messaging, and I use Facebook Messenger as it's another text, right? Because part of what my business is communicating with other agents like you do, and communicating with people that are in my sphere of influence, our consumers that we also interact with. And so I've really weaned myself off of social media a bit.
Okay.
However, I love what's happening with TikTok. It's great. I just realized that I wasn't going to ever use it the way I could.
I have a son that became TikTok famous last May, and he's actually in LA now. He's, he was 19 when he moved. He's now 20. And, I had an interview with Tom Ferry on my podcast, and I asked him, because he talks about Gary Vee a lot, as you do, right? And I asked him, so Gary Vee has over 5 million followers on TikTok. Why are you not on there? And so anyway, I just think it's interesting that, people choose to take advantage or not take advantage of certain platforms. And obviously you're weighing out, okay, is that really a marketplace that I can leverage? And I think it is elevating to where I think the users of TikTok used to be younger, just like Instagram started young.
Yep.
And now it's elevating up to where, you have guys my age on there doing all kinds of things, right?
Yeah. For me, I realized that I wasn't going to do that. And so I use Facebook very well. I know how to use it. I extract a ton of value from it. And I just realized I'm not going to put in the time on TikTok like I would need to in order to get some value out of it. And it wasn't going to be a part of my lane for currently. And so that was it.
Okay. So other current news, Zillow buying Showing Time.
Yeah. What a bold move.
Tell me, I would love to get your perspective on this. I actually got to have somewhat of an interview. It was a private conversation with Spencer Raskoff this week, founder of Zillow. But I'd love to hear your take on what does that mean to the industry?
I don't think we know yet what it means. I think what it represents is that they're very serious in their move forward in their new model. Since Spencer's a super nice guy, right? I was a Zillow customer once for 6 months, but I met him one night at an event. We hit it off, and Like if you don't
super nice guy.
if you don't like Spencer, you're probably a jerk. He's a nice guy. He's hard to not like. And we hit it off and we were talking. I'm like, okay, I really like this guy. I think Rich, his partner, is very easy to not like. And I think that when they made that move of Spencer stepping down and Rich stepping back in as CEO, I think that was a time in history that was a recorded time in history, in my opinion, where Zillow said, okay, we're not even going to pretend to be agent friendly anymore. We're a company that can benefit you as an agent. And it's also just part of what we do as a business. And we've got this other piece of our mission now that looks like it's going to be where our future lies, right? In controlling the transaction and the consumer first.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with that, by the way. I think that's them doing their business. I think as real estate agents, brokers, we're the ones that allow that to happen. And now we have to step up to the plate to answer the call that they have sent by giving more options to the consumer, which, by the way, I think is a really good thing. But what does that particular transaction mean? I think it just means that they're serious and that they see value. There's obviously a ton of value. It doesn't take a detective to realize there's a ton of value in having that showing service data on top of all the other data that they have with what their plans are with controlling transactions. And I don't say that like, oh, poor me as an agent. I just mean it's part of their bigger plan. And to me, it seemed like a very shrewd and good business decision.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if the price was right or not. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think anyone knows, but if you can pay $500 million and it's going to create billions for your business, the price is right.
Yep,
right. It doesn't matter what that company was actually worth.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
If you look at the Instagram acquisition that Facebook did,
they got it for
people
pennies.
Were like, oh, $1 billion. And now people are like, oh, because you did that, you have $100 billion more, right?
Yeah. At the time, it was like, what? They paid $1 billion for Instagram, and now it's like, that's not that much money.
Yeah. So it's interesting. What will happen with this? Is it all about the data? And I think there's so many people talking about that, but I think it's about so much more. If you read Inman and see Rich's comments about they are becoming a part of the transaction process, and they have always been consumer or client focused. So this is all speculation on my part, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if they actually allow the consumer to schedule their own showing and have one of their agents or one of their premier agents or one of their flex agents show up and do the showing.
If you've been enjoying Grit, please help us continue to grow the channel by leaving a 5-star review and sharing it with a friend. Now back to Grit.
Totally. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see anything like that. I think the people talk about the data because people are talking about the data. Like they don't there's so many people in our industry, it's just like they're just regurgitating things that they don't actually know anything about. And there's no doubt it was about the data. It's about the service and the data that company provides. But the reality is again, if it's good for consumers, hey, here's kind of the way I look at it. As a real estate agent, in the industry, we allowed an outsider to come in and provide something new to the consumers that they very clearly have said that they want, and before we did. And so now we have to up our game if we're going to stay in business. That's kind of how I look at it.
Here's the thing. Everybody comes in and disrupts this industry. And at one point you were at KW, and KW disrupted this industry. They came in with a different model that had caps, and they were a training company that taught people how to build a real estate team. That didn't exist, right?
Yeah.
And then Compass comes in, and then, Redfin, then Compass, and then, and Zillow, of course, and Trulia, and realtor.com. And so I think, they talk about becoming a part of the transaction, and obviously realtor.com did this years ago at this point by buying OpCity. And now you have Zillow really trying to become a part of the transaction. And in my opinion, those two companies become the two largest real estate companies in the world very, very quickly just by sending referrals out, right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, if you really, first of all, I'm a firm believer that Zillow has the number one consumer brand in our industry. It's just
without a doubt.
There's no doubt about it, right?
If you are on vacation, I don't care, even if you're in real estate, if you're on vacation on the beach and you want to know how much that $20 million home is that you're looking at, you go to Zillow.
Yeah. Saturday Night Live is not doing a skit about Keller Williams Realty or EXP or Century
No.
21. Like that's not how it works. So no doubt they've built that, they've earned it. And there's always disruptors. There's always changes. I think that we all have to adapt. Like, you have to get better or you go away. That's just the way it works. That is the way it works. There was a time when Remax was the disruptor.
Yeah.
There was a time when Keller Williams was the disruptor, and neither one of those companies look like a disruptor these days. And
exactly.
It's just changed.
So that being said, I want to talk about a new company like that is a disruptor, and you happen to be there, right? EXP. There was a time that I think this industry felt like Gary Keller was the king of this industry, right? But if you look at it today, who is the only CEO of a real estate national? They used to be franchise companies. But in the case of EXP, it's a national company, right? National brand. And the only billionaire that I'm aware of is Glenn, right? Last time I looked, I think it was just over $2 billion now. So I would look at that he has had more success in this industry than Gary already, even though his agent count is substantially lower still. But you are at EXP. I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
The way you just pointed out, the fact that Glenn's probably got more, net worth at this point than Gary is funny, considering the way Gary kind of poo-pooed him and the entire company for the last 5 years.
Well, why do you think he did that though?
Hubris. It's
called threatened.
Yeah, he felt threatened. I also feel like, so let me give the disclaimer that I appreciate Gary Keller on a very high level. He mentored me for like 10 years.
Totally agree. Gary is one of the brightest minds in real estate, without a doubt.
And I think that Gary's number one asset is his number one enemy too, which is probably true for everybody, which is he needs a fight. I've heard him say that to me multiple times. If I don't have a fight, I just go pick one. That's how he stays motivated. And I think that
I've never heard those words out of his mouth, but you've spent more time around him. So
I'm telling you, I've heard him say it like within inches of my face. It's who he is. That's his personality. He needs to have a fight in order to stay engaged. And he also needs to be, I think his other problem though, is he also needs to be the smartest guy in the room. And that's dangerous. When you have the level of success that he has and that he's built, it's easy for those around you who make their living off of your enterprise to allow you to be the smartest guy in the room and to just play a political game around that. And I think a lot of that has happened. Gary is still very intelligent. He recognized years ago that the franchise model, while he was obviously wildly successful, I firmly believe he wished he didn't have a franchise system and that he wished he had a company system. Because I've heard him say, if I could do it all over again, it wouldn't be Keller Williams Realty International. It'd be Gary Keller real estate teams all over the country, amongst other things. So I think they actually
bought some of their teams back, didn't they?
Oh yeah. And that's been part of it. I'm going back to 2011 or 12, like he flat out, they bought their regions back, they've bought market centers back, and it's been part of their plan for a really long time. Gary's very smart, obviously. That goes without saying. I think also he allowed his ego to get in the way, and he decided to talk bad about EXP and Glenn and other people there, rather than go, what can I learn from these people? Like, what are they doing that I shouldn't be doing? And because he needs a fight, he decided to pick a fight with Zillow. He decided to pick a fight with the iBuyers. He decided to pick a fight with the other technology companies. And he ended up saying things. It's like the old saying, like, listen, don't let your mouth write checks that your ass can't cash. And I think he's done that. He's been proven wrong for the last, 4 or 5 years now. And I think that my hope is he's learned that, he's realized that, and he's hopefully getting back to his lane. But I don't know.
So it's interesting you say that. I've never heard anybody say that about Gary, that he has to be in a fight, but wants to pick a fight. But I think he's done that with EXP, clearly. And I would love to get your perception as to why he wanted to build this tech company.
Jeez, Brian, you're going to get me in trouble. You got to understand that. Like I've spent a lot of time around the guy in
Hey,
like
you know what?
small
I would love
rooms.
to learn from people like you that have been so close to all of this.
Um, I mean, he would always use the example of David versus Goliath. Like he needs that. He needs that, or he's needed that. And I've heard him say that in front of not just me, in front of 100 other people more than once. Why that is, I don't know. Some people. Listen, I am not comparing myself to him, so let me be very clear here. But similar to him, I've got this chip that just resides on my shoulder. Of like, screw them, I'm going to prove them wrong. It's probably why I wear flip flops and a black T-shirt, and and just don't care about the rules of things. Like that's the thing. And part of
Yeah,
what
I
I've
thought
tried,
that was just part of living on the West Coast.
maybe it is. Like part of my thing that I've tried to do is like maybe instead of being mad, like try to just be more effective. And obviously Gary's level of effective is significantly higher than almost anybody's on the planet. But I think that still his greatest strength became his greatest weakness in the last couple of years. And I don't know. So I think he just, I'm not a political guy. I don't like politics. But even before we left KW, we just started kind of like not secretly, but going like, man, Gary's like really running a Donald Trump playbook here. Like he's making someone an enemy, vilifying even someone else. This case, it was Zillow, and it was Open Door and OfferPad, and it was EXP, and it was Commissions Inc. and Boomtown. I mean, made them the enemy, and then drew the line and said, hey, listen, you're either with me or you're against me for everyone. Like you have to pick a side. And that worked for a little bit of time.
Was that before or after you left?
That was before.
That was before you left.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was part of the reason I left, because I'm like, it just didn't resonate. I'm like, this is not what I'm here for. I don't want.
You've been at EXP how long now?
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Little more than 2.5 years. Yeah.
So my whole take on that thing, and this is pure speculation. I mean, I think like a tech guy, right? So I'm thinking about IPOs and I'm thinking about stuff like that. But my personal opinion is Glenn came out and did it, I don't know if it was a SPAC or reverse merger or how they went public back then. That was before the SPACs were the thing, right?
Yeah, it was a reverse. Yep.
Yeah. So, but he didn't go public the traditional way, but he knew he could build the value by having all of the agents buying stock every month. I mean, that's pretty much making a marketplace for that stock. And I think my personal opinion is Gary saw that and thought, I need to take this company public, but I can't take it public as a franchise, as a real estate franchise company. We need to be a tech company, exactly like Compass, right? Compass is a real estate company, but Compass sells themselves
as a tech company.
And I think, I mean, I think it had to do with EXP. I also think it had to do with Compass, but again, that's just my opinion.
I think that he's very well positioned to do that at this point. This is my opinion. You and I are both just speculating. Only Gary knows the truth.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the grand plan from the beginning. I think it was about, I've got the biggest, baddest real estate company on the planet, and I'm going to keep having the biggest, baddest real estate company on the planet. And we're going to do that through tech. I think he bet on some wrong horses in his company and made some promises that clearly have not been fulfilled technology wise. And now, no doubt they are positioned, if they wanted to spin off KWX and go public, right? No, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah. And
Will he or won't he? I don't know.
Will, but we'll see.
If I had to bet, I would probably bet yes. But understand, I'm also the guy, I've also heard him say 100, maybe more than 100 times, we'll never go public. Like one of the things he likes to do is say these things so you believe it about anything that's the opposite, right? As an example, he'd always refer to like the Realty brands as, well, they're public, so they're beholden to the shareholders. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you right now, they're not. Like, are there corporate responsibilities? Yes, no doubt about it with public companies. And I know because I highly investigated going there. I spent a couple of days with their senior leadership at Realty headquarters. Some really amazing,
I've been there many times as well.
Super smart people. Ryan Gorman is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And so is his boss, Ryan, like both amazing guys. I spent 2 full days with Ryan Gorman. I really like that guy. And I have nothing but respect for him and a lot of his staff. And however, for the first like 10 years of my career, I always just assumed that they were doing it wrong. And what I realized is the other 90% of the industry doesn't all walk and talk and think the way Gary told me to think. So when he says things like, we tried rev share, it doesn't work. The part that he's leaving out, it's brilliant for him to say that, but he's leaving out the fact that rev share does work at KW. It's called KW Worldwide. They don't do profit share. They do rev share. The other part that he's leaving out is rev share doesn't work when there's brick and mortar and franchise fees and regional owners involved, because all the money goes there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but because he says that
which
from
is
stage,
actually a form of rev share, just a different form.
Exactly. It is rev share differently. But he leaves that part out very strategically and very intelligently so. And so I think that he says things to set them up. So it's going to be hard for him to walk back I'm never going to go public and I'm never going to sell out and I'm never going to be beholden to shareholders if he does go that route. Will he or won't he? I don't really know. He's very clearly has the ability to if he chooses so.
Yeah. So the other thing that you said that I think Gary has said to people is don't leave. Don't use a tech company. Don't use Boomtown or don't use whomever, right? Commissions Inc., whatever.
Sisu.
I don't think he mentioned Sisu. We weren't really big enough at the time.
That's the only reason why. Yeah.
But I know his team, I mean, they've looked at, integrating with us many times and have decided, we're going to try to build that. So
did you get the message from Josh that he could buy you, license you, or just copy you too? Or has he only said that to two other tech company owners? Sorry.
Yeah, indirectly. That's the message. So, but here's the thing that's interesting to me. I think he told because Spring was there at the time as well, when he was telling people, don't leave or don't use these other companies because they will own your data. But I think the reality is that actually probably scared more people than didn't scare, because for people like Spring, she was thinking, well, wait a minute. So KW wants to own my data so I can never leave?
That's what I said. Listen, man, it was April of 2017. I'll never forget the day. He's going like this whole day. We're there for this pirate mastermind in Austin. And he's got all the programmers in it and they're like making it. They're like, we're in a fishbowl and like, we'll just build it for you. Like, what do you love about Boomtown? We're like, we'll just rebuild. I'm like, I don't want you to. And I literally just finally raised my hand. I said, Gary, like, here's the deal, dude. You know that I love you. I have another respect for you. But when I came here, the deal was I pay you a certain amount of money every year and that it's my listing, my lead, and that you would never get between me and the consumer. And now you're telling me you're going to indeed absolutely get between me and the consumer. So number one, I don't like that. Number two, my problem here is with Boomtown. At the time, I was a very happy Boomtown customer. I think the world of Greer and his team. I think they're amazing. And I said, when I have a problem with Boomtown right now, I pick the phone up and I call Greer or David or whoever. And I say, dude, I need this fixed. I need it fixed now. And they fix it. I can't do that for you with you, Gary, if you're my tech provider, because you have 100 of my escrows in your control and all of my independent contractors are your independent contractors and you have control of them too and where that money goes. And I refuse to get that wrapped up. I'd rather pay the bill to Boomtown every month and have the ability to get up and go when I want to, when I don't want to use the CRM or the whatever service provider we happen to be talking about. I had that conversation and it wasn't pleasant. I'll never forget that day. I mean, it was pleasant.
That's a bold move that you would do that. I don't know many people that would say that to Gary. So I have respect for that.
Said a couple bolder things that were probably I shouldn't have, but yes, but here's the deal, man. I just call it how I see it. And there's nothing wrong. I'm okay being wrong. That's like, if he would have proved me wrong, I don't care. I would have been like, yeah, he was right. Damn. I mean, because like, trust me, I wish I would have moved to EXP earlier. Like, it's been amazing the last 2.5 years. It's been amazing. And I think so highly of Glenn and the team that he's built. And when I think about what I thought about them a year prior, I realize how wrong I am. So I wish I would have been, I'm okay being wrong, but I'm going to call it how I see it. And I'm going to align with what I think is best for me and my business and the people that trust me with their business and our families. And I don't think, KW wasn't home anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So We only have a few minutes left. I wish I had more time. I know I have a hard stop. I know you have a hard stop in 5 minutes. So where do you see the industry going? Like, I know nobody knows, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. I mean, what's going to change over the next 3 to 5 years or even 12 months?
I don't know.
I think this whole Zillow thing, let everybody know with them acquiring showing time, things are definitely changing.
Yeah, I think that, I think that writing has been on the wall for anybody who's been engaged and paying attention. What's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen the next 12 months outside of, God, I wish there'd be some more homes for sale. This tight inventory is nuts. That said, where's it going to go? I don't know. My hunch has been, and it will be for some time until I see something different, that there'll be fewer real estate professionals in the United States. And as the companies like Zillow and Open Door and OfferPad take more transactions out of the marketplace, that's probably going to mean the overall number of agents drop. But I think what's going to happen most importantly is the consumer is going to continue to have more and more options. And for those of us who are willing to step up and provide those options and provide solutions to consumers are going to be just fine. And we're going to have great businesses. We're going to still have the ability to have a great business. Outside of that, man, I don't know. What I do know is there's not going to be one piece of technology that's going to save me. And there's some amazing technology out there. And I got to be thinking consumer first. How can I provide for the consumer? And I think that's all I have to think about for the next 3 years as we go. After that, man, I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm interested in finding out.
Yeah, you and me both. I'm very interested. I think one of the things you said is there's going to be fewer agents. I think that's starting right now, and here's why. Like, it used to be, in my opinion, that if you were a really good agent, you had to be a listing agent.
Yeah.
And now, if you want to sell homes and you're a buyer's agent, you need to be a really good agent. Like, you need to be able to figure out how to win those offers, right? And if you're not a great agent, you're not going to survive. And I don't see agents being able to just come in off the street now, walk in, be a buyer's agent, and be extremely successful.
Yeah, it's hard. It's harder than ever for newer agents. We were just talking about this earlier with a couple of friends of mine. Just talking about the way things are having to change for newer agents, and the things that, again, that we have to do is, whether you own a team like myself and are at another brokerage, or maybe you own your own brokerage, whatever your scenario is, you're going to have to, things are going to look different. You got to be okay with that. You got to be willing to do things differently than you've ever done if you want to not just survive, but actually, continue to grow.
Yeah, I think, the industry's been talking forever about teams are the future. And then it's going to be these indie brokerages. But I think the reality is, if you're not with somebody, if you come into this industry as a new agent, you need to connect to somebody like yourself who's running a powerful team that can train you, that can build you up, that can give you leads, that can do all the things you're going to need to do to really succeed. Otherwise, you won't be in this business in a year.
Yeah, it's a fact. That really is true.
All right. Well, I know we're out of time, Kevin. I've got a list of questions here that I didn't ask you, so we might have to do a part 2 sometime, because this just flowed. But I really enjoyed getting to know you better. Loved getting your insights. And I hope all of our listeners today, I hope you guys feel the same way. Just an honor and a privilege to have you on here with us today, Kevin. Thank you.
Absolutely,
so much.
Brian. I'm glad we got the chance to do this. I'm looking forward to running it back. That's for sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you for joining us on our podcast. If you have an interest in a free 7-day trial of Sisu, go to sisu.co, sisu.co. Make sure that you use the coupon code GRIT, that's GRIT, to waive all your setup fees and receive a 10% discount on your subscription. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and want to subscribe, search GRIT, the Real Estate Growth Mindset, on iTunes, Spotify, or Podbean. And with that, we'll catch you next time. Take care.